Pardon us for rushing through on this, ladies and gentlemen. As you see on the stage is getting set for yet another session. And this one, we would really like you to give us your attention because it is truly a pleasure for us to be having Padma Shri winner, Dr. Indira Hinduja, here with us. And it is going to be my pleasure as I welcome her on stage into a fireside chat. I'm sure that many of us look forward to this instance when you get to hear a legend speak and truly set us a guideline, a pathway which cannot be clearer than what we can hear from her. Though every introduction will fall short, and I will definitely not be able to do justice with my words, but still in the interest, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Indira Hinduja is the first lady awardee by Ministry of Health and Development by the President of India, honorary gynecologist, IVF and infertility specialist, PD Hinduja Hospital and Medical Research Center, consultant and obstetrics and gynecology, Jaslok Hospital and Breach Candy Hospital. These are just few of the accolades that adds to her name. I think she's a lady who deserves a massive applaud and huge respect as we welcome ma'am. Thank you so much. We cannot thank you enough for taking out time and being here with us. I'm sure many of our young fellows here are looking forward to your guidance, ma'am. Thank you so much. And in conversation with her, I'm inviting Dr. Professor Shweta Mittal Gupta, who's the Secretary General, India Fertility Society and Co-Director, Center of IVF and Human Reproduction, Sir Gangaram Hospital. Welcome, ma'am. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, you can do better than this. Dr. Gupta, whenever you're ready, the stage is yours.
I'm ready. I've been told that I have to be on a roller coaster ride when it comes to this fireside chat. I did this last year. But just to add to her certain more achievements, I think it's really important for you all to know that she is associated with the birth of baby Harsha in 1986, the first gift baby and the first baby through donor oocytes as well. And she's also a recipient of Dhanvantri Award winner, which was given by the Governor of Maharashtra, and 2 awards which were given by the President of India. So let's start this fireside chat with a big round of applause. I think it's a big achievement. It's an honor to interview ma'am at this point of time. So let's start. Let's get the most important information that when you started your career in reproductive medicine, we would love to hear that how did you get into that? There was so much of, uncertainty in this field. Nobody knew what's going to happen. And then you chose this field. So we would love to hear your journey, that how did you pick it up? And the most important, see, we heard it in the last panel, that what is important, even if you want to scale up your practice, you want to scale up your centers, it has to be sustainable. You don't sustain, you fall. But you decided to sustain in this field where the pregnancy rates were so dismally low. So, ma'am, we would love to hear that from you.
Good evening and thank you. Thank you very much for all that. I'm very grateful to the second edition of IVF Summit for inviting me for this. I'm happy to be present among you people. Thank you very much. First of all, let me tell you, I was never interested in obstetrics and gynecology. It was just as a fluke I joined OB/GYN. My first love was for pediatrics. And I did my first house post in pediatrics. My boss told me that you must know how the baby is at the birth. So since you have got good marks, take an obstetric and gynec. First I said, never. I used to vomit in labor room when I used to go to conduct the delivery with the smell of that. I said, how will I survive there for 6 months? So anyway, as an allied post, to learn neonatology. Those days, neonatology was not there. The pediatrician was not there. Only obstetrician used to look after the baby and revive the baby if the baby is not crying. So we were taught how to do suction, how to do intubation and all that. So when I first time entered in the wards and I did the PV of the woman who came with, I started crying. I don't know what to see and how to look and what am I doing, what's the dilatation. So the nurse called my registrar, see your house surgeon is crying in the ward, you come down, something is wrong. So she was a very nice, sweet Parsi lady, and she specified me and really taught me the clinical IVF. After the delivery of the newborn, I really felt in that for it. And I felt love for those babies who were being born first. After I finished my MD, I decided, no, I don't want to do post-graduation. I don't want to do deliveries. I don't want to do MTPs because MTP I have never done in my life. So when I used to leave my hospital and go home, there was a bus stop. And on that bus stop, there was a board, Research in Reproduction, ICMR. And those were the times when Louise Brown was born. So I used to always say, in reproduction, what research they must be doing. And birth of Louise and this. So one day I collected my courage and entered inside. There was one department where do the research in animals. Dr. Peter was in charge, and I asked him, can I just come and have a look at your procedure? He used to do in hamsters and white mice. So I attended that. It was so fascinating to see the egg under microscope, see the sperm under microscope. But he used to just inseminate the sperm. There was no ICSI, nothing. And after some time, we see those two pronuclei. That was a thrilling experience. So after seeing that, I just suggested him, why can't we do like Louise Brown? He laughed at me. So he said, who will give me the eggs? I said, I'll give you. Who will give you the permission? There was a big query. Then I tried to find out from my boss, he was Dr. Purandare, if I collect the fluid of the follicular fluid from the women who are undergoing female sterilization, and if there is a follicle, can I aspirate? He said, you have to take ethics clearance. Then we had a meeting in the department, and they allowed me to aspirate, and I will run across the road without wasting a second to see if the similar structure like in hamster is present in that fluid. It took me very long time to get one egg. I tell you, that was my first day. I'm going to work on Louise Brown. I'm going to work on Louise Brown. This was my dream, and I started in that. Then after collecting the egg, having matured them, looking them, the polar body, I got the experience. That is how I started my journey in IVF. And then applied in ICMR for the permission to transfer this knowledge. The Director General was Ramlinga Swami. He also approved because it was a SAC. SAC means Scientific Advisory Committee. They used to have every year. Then he made the Dean of KEM. Both of them sat. Ethics Committee was formed, and I was officially given the permission to collect the egg from the infertile. Gradually, I was working for 3 years on that project, and one day I got a positive. When I got the positive, I'll tell you, I didn't know whether it is right or wrong, whether it is true. Then we got beta HCG done, 50. So the Director General of ICMR was informed. He said, yes, it is positive. That's SOMAF. And believe me, that was my 18th case. First time 17 cases I've heard, and 18th was my birthday. So I thought, well, this number 9 is lucky for me. Believe me, friends, from then onwards, my car is number 9, my flat is number 9. So I continue that number 9 lucky number for me. I don't know about others. And that is
wow, ma'am, that's so inspiring. That's commendable. I can really relate because my son, who's in class 12, was told by his biology teacher that your mom is into IVF. Why don't you do a project in IVF? He kept telling me, call me to your IVF lab. I want to observe. So I called him just 2 days back. And the moment he saw the chief embryologist was doing ICSI, he went gaga, he took videos, and he saw oocytes. He could relate to the embryos, the sperms. So I can imagine so many decades back when nothing was happening and how inspirational you were. So when we're talking of inspiration...
One more thing I'll tell you, that I'm proud of myself that I never went abroad to learn. I didn't do any procedures anywhere in abroad. Whatever I have done with my own hands.
Yes.
Even including the washing of the glassware, distilling the water, preparing the media. Days together I have slept in the lab to do all that. So tell you very honestly, I feel very proud that I'm the one who was not trained by anybody. Did myself. Thank you.
Ma'am, we are absolutely reaping the benefits of the hard work done by you, by Dr. B.N. Chakravarti, and by so many, doctors who were in that league. Now coming to, the newer generation. We talk of 70% pregnancy rate in one go, the first IVF, anyone does. So you have mentored generations after generation. So do you want to give some take-home message beyond the skills, in spirit, for the younger generation who are sitting at the moment and who would be listening to your chat later?
See, every field requires the hard work, honesty, sincerity, and your whole and soul in that if you want to succeed. कहते हैं ना, अगर आपके attempts अच्छे हैं, तो whole कायनात help you. I believe it. I really believe it. So I feel that if you are really honest in it, then definitely you will do well in any field. But one thing is certain, IVF has got a lot of loopholes. Everybody knows that it is very easy to fool the patient. Very easy to say because success rate was so low. Well, we fail in the lab, still we say, well, it was your bad luck. We don't admit. However, in any field, if you're honest, you have hard work, and you sincerely think that you do it, and be really honest to yourself, you will definitely succeed. This is what only I tell to the youngsters, that only this field, be true to yourself, be true to the patient, be true to the technique. You will definitely succeed. So I feel, whatever it is, be honest and have your sincere hard work, whichever the field is. So there is nothing wrong in learning from the juniors, nothing wrong in learning from anybody, nothing wrong discussing your failures, nothing wrong what has gone wrong. You tell the patients, you will be definitely loved by your patients.
Excellent, ma'am. It's an excellent message, because assuming that all IVFs will be successful, assuming that all patients will form an embryo is incorrect, and giving the right information to the patients and being honest to yourself and to the patient is of utmost importance. Coming to the last two questions, and I can continue. So when you will give me the red signal, I will, because we can actually, so 2-3 minutes more. Yeah. So coming to another question, that we know that India in the last 1 decade, so I came in the IVF sector 21 years back. The pregnancy rates were 20%. In 2016, I feel vitrification was a game changer. And in my fellowship days in 2001, Dr. Goswami, who was a chief clinician with Dr. B.N. Chakravarti, would tell me this slow freeze is rubbish. That time the whole world would say vitrification is toxic, and he would say vitrification would come. I resonate with his words today. So can you tell me that now we are sitting in 2025, India is absolutely leading when it comes to number of patients or the technologies. We can do much more. We can get in more technology, more research if our government pumps in. But what is the future of India? What do you think? What is, how can India shape up when it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF? Let's not just call it IVF. Let's call it reproductive medicine. When it comes to innovations, research, anything.
IVF is the only branch where you get human material ethically, rightfully for the research. So this is the key to any field to progress, develop better techniques, and also improve. In the beginning, IVF was given permission only to treat the patient who has failed tuboplasty, to support the family planning program, and second, tuberculosis. Now the vast application of IVF, vast distribution all over these advances will not only give the pleasure to the infertile couple, but it will open another avenue for research in reproductive or human material, where we can have a very bright future curing the cancer, treating abnormality, removing the abnormality, and giving us the good life for the human being. This is the only branch. I think it requires the collaboration with the institutions, with the government, and with the infertility, where the research is the sky. The limit is sky. You can get contraceptives, you can get treatment, you can take better human being, you can treat so many conditions. But the knowledge of IVF is one of the best blessing for the human being, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for all the pearls of wisdom you have imparted us today. I think we'll give a standing ovation to a legend whom we have just heard today. And a round of applause, ma'am, for all the inspiration, all the hard work, and all the take-home messages of being ethical and to have a high-end research, and success will touch your feet anytime. So sky is not the limit. Thank you, gentlemen, all the ladies, doctors, youngsters who are sitting here. You are the inspiration and the future, models for us. So thank you so much for joining us for this fireside.
Thank you, Dr. Induja. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Gupta, ma'am, we request you to kindly present a plaque to ma'am.